So I wrote this thing. It's a weird thing. It's unlike most of the things that I write. And I was reading through it and I was like, wow, this is either a really angry political tract, or it's the kind of thing that an old man in a future ruined city explains to a nearby traveller about why everything in civilization went wrong, and that's why everything is shit now. So that's that'll be fun. Crap. Right, so I'm going to be talking about a subject that's been a growing concern of mine for a few years, and it's a big one, and an important one for me, and it's a bit serious, I'm afraid. So bear with me. I'm going to be talking about truth. So when everybody goes, truth. Right, okay. So, yeah, I believe we need a new sincerity. I believe we need a new focus on ideas so basic and fundamental to our lives and our public discourse that they affect everything else that we do. These are ideas that have drifted now, have been co-opted, and now stand to be abandoned as being old-fashioned or naive. We need to get past our current cynicism and ironic detachment, drag the best out of the ideologies of the past, the last 100 years, and form something new and stronger out of them, something solid and lasting and boring, but brilliant. And I think that idea is sincerity. For me, sincerity is really about two things. Firstly, and this may be a big and woolly idea to swallow, I think sincerity is a deep and profound commitment to the idea of truth. It's not just about saying what you feel. It's not just about trying really hard to believe what you say. It's much more important and fundamental than that. It's about believing there is such a thing as truth, and believing it is important and that it is necessary. Sincerity, again, a deep and profound commitment to the idea of truth. And secondly, as much as possible, I think sincerity is a belief in the honest and open expression of that truth. It's a belief that it's important not just to acknowledge the existence of truth, but to express it as well as you can. These statements may seem self-evident, that truth is good and real and that we should attempt to express it honestly. But I'm not sure it is self-evident anymore. In fact, I think these ideas are seen increasingly as old-fashioned and naive, almost stupid. One truth. Really? And I think that is because these ideas have been under systematic attack for several decades. And I think without a belief in sincerity and truth, without a fundamental commitment to some of the most basic ideas, I think our political debates, our media, our way of life becomes nothing more than a place where arguments are played out against one another, like Pokemon. You laugh. Everything becomes just a strategy to win the debate. You've got to catch them all. No matter what the effect on the world, it's cockfighting on the Hindenburg. So what is the shape of the assault that sincerity and truth is subject to, and where is its origin? And this is where I become mad old man in the desolate ruins of an abandoned and ruined city, complaining about the past. You know, I'm only nearly 40, so it's not really true. Right. At one level, you could go back all the way through any political thinkers throughout the centuries, all the way back to Plato to see the background of this story. Or you could take another tack. Has truth and sincerity been under attack by advertising or public relations? But part of me thinks our current situation is the result of a particular moment and a particular time and a particular thing that happened. And that's when ideas that emerged in the political left and the humanities departments of many universities, places that I have been resident, got co-opted by a political class, and to some extent by the political right, and just got used inappropriately. Here's how I see that story unfolding. It's a very simplified version, and I hope you won't be too offended by how simplified it is. Over the this is the big epic story. Here I am, ruins everywhere around me. Small child, Grand Uncle Tom. Yes, small child. Why is the world so crappy? Well, it's a long and involved story, which I'm quite happy to tell you. So over the last century, people from all kinds of different backgrounds, people like me, and you, people historically discarded or sidelined by society, gradually started to rise up and demand rights and visibility. And in the process, they demanded access to the narratives and histories of our world. Was an intimate history of sex really a history of sex if it only talked about straight people? Could you really have a history of Europe without mentioning poor people or women? Probably not. These people who are fighting against this kind of narrow view of history managed to expose that traditional writing of history was written by a very narrow group of academics with a very narrow set of preoccupations, people interested in explaining why things had come to be the way they were, people actively tracing a path from the past to the present to create arguments or justifications for the way they thought the world should be. That was obviously needed to change. That needed to be attacked and removed. And from there, these divergent voices, people like you and me, moved on to attack the grand narratives of the previous age. Everything from manifest destiny and the civilizing West and the natural superiority of some races, and Victorian morality and appropriate sex, all the way through to capitalism and communism. And they revealed them not as natural truths of existence, as some people have thought, but as constructions, ways of creating and exerting control of the world. And having done that, those people, they fought for a pluralization of voices, a rejection of those grand narratives, a re-examination of the role of history itself. Churchill had said history was written by the victors, but this new generation believed that it should be revised and expanded and criticized and opened up to everyone. And this new approach to history was just one of the narratives that collectively challenged all our assumptions and orthodoxies to the extent that we even began to question the ground on which we stood. Derrida and deconstruction, post-structuralism, post-modernity, fascinating ideas that pulled our thinking away from the physical, the directly political, into the world of language and discourse, where thousands of voices and ideas resonated and competed and intermingled with one another endlessly through a realm of symbol and concept. We seem to be moving into an environment composed purely of voices, brands, and narratives, somehow mixed with the numinous and the magical. And that was before the internet turned up with its new set of promises and dreams. Universities were full of people aspiring to sort of philosophical singularity or rapture, eager to shed the fixed, stolid ideas of the generations that came before them, combust into intellect and embrace the divine, thaumaturges. And somewhere in the middle of all these discussions, believing in truth, that things actually happened, that there are facts, that argument can be made on evidence, that having a strongly held belief is not enough to define public policy, somehow truth became unfashionable. And the graduates of our universities went out into the world with new skills and techniques to interrogate the world with, and a slightly woolly sense of the value of everyone's voice, and a deep suspicion of anyone trying to argue for the real, the true, the solid, and the definitive. And they looked at the world through an ironic distance, enjoying things or critiquing them at arm's length as if they weren't quite real. And slowly, and horrifyingly, in the background, political operators from every party and background spotted the power of some of these ideas. Ideas that had the power to destroy and destabilize cultures. Perhaps they even believed in them, and they cherry-picked the most potent, and they started to employ them without mercy. Today it looks to me as if great swathes of our public institutions, politicians and media, academics and public intellectuals have given up on truth and see no value in sincerity. For them, sincerity is simply arguing strongly for what you believe, but it's belief unsupported by facts. It's in defiance of knowledge of information, belief that rejects truth. How can a politician be considered sincere when they deny climate change, when confronted with massive evidence from reputable sources, that you choose to go instead with what your gut says? That's a person with no respect for truth. And if you no longer believe in truth, then how can you be sincere? And our press too are not sincere when they dredge the muttered effluvia of our representatives for materials with which they can manufacture controversy. They're not sincere when they present a debate between two sides of an argument that only truthfully has one side. They're fabricating conflict. They're doing it for spectacle. They have no respect for truth. And when you see the experts that you get to read in opinion pages and on TV, they're all representatives or advocates of political parties because that's how you get balance now. There's no longer a belief in the impartial expert who could present an argument fairly. Everyone is biased now. No one is trustworthy. With such beliefs, how can they be sincere? That poisonous imp who took over from Larry King on American television, a big presence in my country, has expressed on a number of occasions that news is just another branch of the entertainment industry. Perhaps he finds that a depressing thought. Perhaps he's gone with it because he thinks it's inevitable. Perhaps he thinks that's just the way the world works now. The best story wins. To me, that's the larger crime, a declaration that truth is now just a trellis on which you grow your stories, unless that is they reach a point when they're capable of supporting themselves. What I do for a living is to try and work out the shape of the near future. I do that by looking at technologies that are emerging, and I try and combine those shifts in technology with a sense of the kind of things that people like to do, that they find useful or fun. And from those combinations of technology shifts and human instincts come products, some of which get made. Some of them are better than others. When I'm building a product, when I'm finding a product, the first thing that I'm trying to get to is what I call the hard nub in the middle of the idea. The hard nub is the core, the solid, the true thing about the product. It expresses what that product is for. And it can normally, once you've found it, be expressed relatively simple to anyone. I'm totally breaking this bloody microphone. Okay, I'm just walking backwards, I think this is time. Finding the nub is a really difficult process though, and you really have to dig into how people operate and what they care about and how that fits with the technologies at your disposal. And once you've actually found it, you're still only 1/100th of the way to actually building a product that people want to use. And that's about expressing that truth, that nub, as honestly and clearly as you can. One of the reasons I love the technology industry is that despite all the crap that goes on around the media and TechCrunch and all the blogs and gossip and AOL buying Burning Man and the big tantric orgasm we all for some reason gave Ariana Huffington, although frankly, I mean, Jesus, why would they? I mean, hasn't she got enough? Give me a fucking tantric orgasm. But for all of that, and all the bloody corporate speak that we all had to deal with in these various places, you know, corporate speak being an active attempt to mine all potential meaning from any sentence to avoid liability. Despite all of that, there are people with a passionate belief in trying to build interesting and new things, who believe in quality and progress and like making things. When a product manufacturer cuts through all the superfluous style and decoration and brings out the heart of a product, you guys know it. Companies like Apple do it, and we love their products on the whole as a result, because they feel right to us. They feel solid, real, functional, and beautiful. The beauty is the result of function expressed well. Without the function, the beauty would be false. And the function would be useless and buried without the simple and clear expression. So it is, I think, with culture. Without a commitment to truth, our words are hollow. Without an attempt to express the truth honestly and openly, our arguments remain cheap and false. So what do I believe in? I believe in a new sincerity, and I want you guys to help me make it happen very slowly. All these things happen very slowly. It's a belief and a commitment to truth. It's arguing for truth, not aggressively as a weapon, but in order to illuminate. It's thinking critically, it's being fair. It's being open to having our own ideas questioned and to incorporate what we learn into our worldviews. And it's holding public figures and journalists to the same standards. It's about attempting to abandon ironic detachment and embarrassment and embracing the world for what it is in all its wonder. But most importantly, it's about abandoning the idea that the truth is something bendable, flexible, relative, and unreal. It's not something that everyone has their own particular, special, equally appropriate version of. It's much more than that. It's one very real, beautiful thing, unfathomable in scope, unknowable in its totality, revealed in part only by the combinations of billions of perspectives and the employment of our minds. That beauty and wonder is something that we all deserve access to, and which enriches everyone. It's the keystone of our civilization, and there is nothing more important. And I mean that sincerely.